Hey guys, what's up? Last time we talked, I reviewed the new Powerbuilding program by Dave Tate and John Meadows called Unity. And I got a lot of really great feedback on the review, and I got a lot of requests to review other programs as well. I love programs, I love programming, I love to tinker with stuff, so this was something that was quite up my alley. And I'd like to do my second review on one of the reactive training program's adaptive templates that's also designed for Powerbuilding. It should be no secret why I chose RTS. I'm a big proponent of Mike Teixeira's training methods. I followed him for a long time. I incorporate probably more of his ideas into my training than anyone else's. If you're not familiar with the adaptive templates, I'm not surprised, because one of the few criticisms I have of this program is that it's not very well marketed. Until I was looking for a t-shirt and I came across the adaptive templates. So I do encourage you to guys go to the RTS website and check it out under their store links, because there's a number of different programs. I'm only going to talk about the Powerbuilding program right now, but they have, I want to say about half a dozen that are just, they're cookie cutter programs, but in a typical RTS fashion, they're designed so that you can really make them your own very easily. And for that reason, and for their very, low price relative to what else is on the market, the bottom line is I think they're probably the best programs that you can buy, mine included, with the exception of maybe Unfuck Your Program, which I'm very proud of, but isn't a traditional program. Now, I say that having only myself looked at the hypertrophy program and the Powerbuilding program, and today I'm only focusing on the Powerbuilding program. But again, I do think that it is probably, all things considered, the best designed Powerbuilding program I've ever seen that's not for a specific individual. However, there are some drawbacks, and I'm going to discuss those as well. But first, I want to talk about the program itself, talk about how it's kind of designed, and give you an idea of what you can expect if you do buy it. So the program is 8 weeks long. You can buy either a 3 frequency, 3 day per week split, or a 4 day per week split. They're pretty similar, no matter which one you buy. I prefer 4 days a week. I think training 4 days a week is probably optimal for most people. 3, if you have a little bit less recovery, a little bit more hectic schedule, is fine. 5, if you have more free time, is probably fine as well. But 4 is a good sweet spot for most people. Each day is a full body training day. So you're going to have a squat slot, a bench slot, and a deadlift slot. And each slot has an intensity parameter for your training and a volume parameter that's based off that intensity parameter. And I love this idea. This is something that I've stolen and incorporated in a lot of my own stuff. But basically the idea is, in order to maintain your top end strength, you're going to warm up for each movement, and then you're going to hit a top set, right, of somewhere, for this particular program, it's somewhere between 1 and 4 reps for most of the main movements. There's some accessories that are a little bit different, but for your squat, bench press, and deadlift, and your close variations, it's going to be 1 to 4 reps. Then you're going to take a percentage of that number and you're going to perform some volume work. The volume work can be pretty freaking nutty. There's a lot of volume in this program, so this is going to crush most people. And honestly, for myself, I would probably pull back a little bit on the volume because I know I can't tolerate quite that much. This is a great great setup, because again, you maintain your top range strength with that over warm up set, we'll call it. You get to practice with the heavy weights, but then you get so much volume that you're also creating enough stimulus for hypertrophy. It's also really fun. I love full body days. I love being able to train hard and heavy, but then also have a lot of volume too. So I think that's really, really cool. There are some other guidelines that I think people might overlook, and I suggest you not. There's some recommendations for GPP, General Physical Preparedness. There's some recommendations for how to modify the program if needed, but typically you should stick to the given RPEs as closely as possible. And I think that if you can do those things, this is going to be a stellar program. The few drawbacks are that, or I guess the one really big drawback is that this is not an easy program to follow. And by that, I don't mean that it's so physically demanding you're going to die. I think it's very well designed in that regard. What I mean is it's going to take a lot of discipline. For the most part, you're performing very similar movements from week to week, and even from day to day. They're somewhat similar. And I think a lot of people might get mentally stale on that. A lot of people love variety. I think that's one of the reasons John Meadows' program is so popular. I think that's one of the reasons that typical bodybuilding programs are so popular. You get to do different things. I also think it takes a lot of thought and care to pick the correct movements for you. So they give you, obviously, they recommend different movements. In my opinion, those should be switched very slightly. You're not making crazy changes, but for example, one of the movements is a bench press with slingshot. I do not get very much out of a bench press with a slingshot for whatever reason. Well, I know what reason, but it's irrelevant. I would probably switch that with a different movement that was still designed to kind of overload my top end bench. So whether it was a board press or a reverse band press, something like that. I think that type of modification is very, very important if you want to get the most out of this program as possible. Obviously, you're going to be able to run it exactly as designed and do just fine. But if you can make those changes, you're going to do even better. The other part is that I think you really, really, really got to pay attention to those GPP sessions. I think they're absolutely vital. The reason for that is the program, full body programs, in my opinion, very rarely, especially when you only have 3 movements a day, very rarely you're going to provide enough stimulus for some of the smaller muscle groups, right? So that we're talking arms, shoulders, calves. For some people, maybe the hamstrings, even the quads. People tend to need a little bit more isolation work, maybe even a little bit more volume, even when you're killing yourself on those compound lifts. I don't have a great explanation for that. It's just something that I've noticed with myself, and it's something I've noticed with a lot of other lifters. You can look at the top pros, they all do the same thing. There's a reason for that. It does work. If you have stubborn arms, and you're not doing curls, and you're not doing extensions, well, that's probably the reason. So, you have to design those GPP sessions very, very carefully. I don't love the idea they say to do them in a circuit. I don't love that idea. I would prefer that you broke them up into specific exercises that were very tailored to your individual anatomy, and I would push those fairly hard. I do like the 20 to 30 minute recommendation for time limit on those. I might push those to 30 to 40 minutes, and I like the 1 to 2 sessions. If you have great recovery, you have a lot of free time, I would push that to 3 to 4 sessions per week. Okay? If you're able to do all this, I think this is an absolutely phenomenal program, and it's very, very inexpensive. The really cool part is when you buy it, it's going to put the workout into Track. I think it's called Track. The dashboard that RTS has is free to everybody that allows you to track your training, so that's really cool as well. You almost get like a free app out of it. There are very, very few criticisms I have for this program if you're willing to put in the time and thought. I think that kind of wraps it up. If you guys have any questions, full disclosure, I am going to send this to Mike before I post it, get his feedback on it, and I'll probably include that in the comments as well. I have talked to Mike a little bit about the templates. I'm a big fan of his, as I've said over and over again. But if you do have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I'll do my best to address them. If I don't know, I'll try to ask one of the RTS guys. I don't have a whole lot to say here because it's really well designed. It's really fun. It's really right up my alley. I would also like recommendations for other programs that if you guys are really interested. I think the only one I saw previously on my last video was 531. That was the only specific recommendation I was asked for. I've addressed 531 in the past. I think it's popular enough by now that everybody kind of has a feel for what it is. So I don't necessarily know that that's worth my time. But if there are other ones that you guys are interested in, please let me know, and I'd be happy to check those out as well.